Then the house is mine. If you have a complaint, let's get a divorce. Just after Dad Adam had passed away, my husband Cody was gleefully boasting about having changed the house's title into his name, which made me dizzy. Changing the title like that shouldn't be so easy. I thought maybe Cody was misunderstanding something. Then we can get a divorce, but won't you regret it? Cody, not expecting me to agree to a divorce so easily, let out a dumbfounded huh? I won't! With an expression as if to say, "Are you stupid?" Cody replied. I see. He won't regret it. Then, I won't hold back. Don't come crying to me later. I scoffed at Cody's naivety in my heart. My name is Regina. I'm 35 years old and work as a civil servant. Being serious by nature, it's quite fitting that I landed a job as a civil servant. When I passed the civil service exam, my parents were delighted. That's because Dad always told me to choose as stable a job as possible. Whether being a civil servant is absolutely stable is debatable nowadays, but so far, there haven't been any problems, and I feel like I can continue this job. There was a reason Dad wanted me to have a stable job. After graduating from college, my dad joined a startup company. Filled with enthusiasm for his upcoming professional life, he dived into a company with just 10 employees, hoping to improve his skills. However, surviving as a company for even a few years is quite challenging. The company Dad joined went bankrupt just 2 years later. Dad tried to find another job, but couldn't find a suitable one. So, he decided to start his own company. With little know-how in business, Dad started managing a restaurant and gradually expanded its performance. As the number of stores increased and more employees were hired, he had to worry about sales and profits daily. Most of the stores were renovated vacant or owned houses, so there was no rent. Thus, the more customers, the more profit, amassing $3 million in assets over 35 years. But, of course, it wasn't easy. Running a business as unstable as management meant accumulating daily stress. Once the business started to profit, people driven by greed appeared, complicating human relationships. There was even an incident where an employee ran off with the store's money. Building assets is not straightforward. That's probably why Dad wanted me, his daughter, to live comfortably without going through the hardships he faced. I'm satisfied with being a civil servant, a job that fits my personality well. Though not wealthy, I can lead a normal life without issues. That's why I thought the best was to continue living peacefully. Tomorrow night I'll be late. Don't wait up for dinner. How many times has Cody said this? As I was washing the dishes after dinner, I dried my hands with a towel and turned to ask. Again? Is there that much overtime at the factory? It's our busy season. Cody works in a factory making semiconductors, doing line work. 18 years have passed since he started this job right after high school graduation. Processing parts that come down the line for 8 hours a day is indeed hard work. I could never do it, but for Cody, it seems easier than a job that requires thinking. Right. Semiconductors have been in short supply recently. Must be tough. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, but I think I'll be late for a while. Okay. Good luck. Lately, coming home late has become the norm, and sometimes he doesn't return until the date changes. I can't imagine he's working that late, so he must be going out for drinks after work. While I understand the desire to soothe a tired body with alcohol, it seems to be happening too frequently. But I can't possibly say such a thing to Cody. Telling him not to go out for drinks when he's already exhausted from work might make him angry. Fortunately, the drinking money should come from Cody's allowance, so it wasn't too much of a problem. As I watched Cody go to the bedroom, I rolled my shoulders. They've been stiff lately. The stress of living past each other is probably making me tense up. I tell myself not to take things too seriously. I met Cody when I was a sophomore in high school. He went to a nearby boys' school and approached me during a cultural festival. He was a year younger and asked for my contact information. Initially hesitant, I gave in after his persistent pursuit. Why he was so interested in me, a girl whose only trait was being serious, was a mystery. But embarrassingly, he said it was because he liked my looks. Cody seemed frivolous at first, which worried me, but I soon found out he was surprisingly devoted. And I quickly grew fonder of him than he was of me. Even after graduating high school, with Cody working in me going to university and becoming a civil servant, he remained my boyfriend. We got married when I was 27. Unfortunately, we haven't been blessed with children since then. I think it might be too late now. But I'm okay with it just being the two of us. If I can continue living with Cody, who hasn't changed since we met, that's enough for me. Cody probably feels the same. During our busy yet tranquil married life, I received a call on my mobile phone. Hello? Hello, Regina? Oh, good. Are you at work right now? Yes, but what's up? It must be something urgent for Mom to call in the middle of a weekday. I asked what happened. It's serious. Adam collapsed, and after some tests, they say it's colorectal cancer. Cancer? No way! Hearing the word cancer from Mom, I couldn't believe my ears. There had never been any cancer patients in our family. But Dad, being a business owner, had indeed neglected his health checkups. So, it wouldn't be strange if he had been sick without realizing it. It's true. It's quite advanced. That can't be. But cancer is curable these days, isn't it? The thing is, given Adam's condition, he might only have a few months left. A few months? That can't be. I wanted to believe it was impossible. But Dad was only 60, young, and it made sense if the cancer was progressing rapidly. Especially since it was discovered late. No matter how much medicine has advanced, curing late-stage cancer is difficult, Mom explained tearfully. Understood. I'll come home for a while. I'll let Cody know too. Thank you, Regina. Dad is very important to me. There was no way I wouldn't rush to his side in a crisis. Cody would understand. That day, I finished work unsettled and went home. Cody was home early for a change, and seeing my pale face, he asked, "What's wrong? You look upset." Cody was drinking beer on the sofa. I told him everything Mom had said. And I asked if it was okay for me to go home for a while. That's tough. Understood. Stay by Adam's side. Thank you. But I won't be able to cook for you. No worries. I've been getting home late from work anyway. I'll eat out. Make sure you eat something nutritious once in a while. I know. Cody listened to me calmly, which was a relief. Feeling reassured, I started preparing for my return home tomorrow. As bedtime approached and I was about to enter my room, I heard Cody talking on the phone in his bedroom. It seemed he was on a call with someone. I didn't intend to eavesdrop, but I stopped when I heard a word that caught my attention. It seems he's about to kick the bucket soon. Can you do something about that thing we discussed before? Kick the bucket. Was he talking about Dad? Yes, I see. Thank you, I appreciate it. I couldn't tell whom he was talking to or what exactly they were discussing, but it was clear they were talking about Dad. But why would he say such a thing? I had never heard Cody speak ill of Dad. They weren't particularly close, but he wasn't heartless enough to not care about Dad's condition. Yet, Cody seemed indifferent about Dad's situation. And though Dad was terminally ill, he was still alive. Discussing Dad's posthumous matters with a stranger was unthinkable. For the first time, I felt suspicious of Cody. After that, my doubts about Cody never faded. "Take care," he cheerfully saw me off to my parents' home, but I couldn't stop worrying about what Cody had said on the phone. Cody was up to something. When it comes to Dad, it's about money. I never told Cody how much Dad's assets were. I thought talking about money might lead to trouble. We could discuss the inheritance when the time came. It's not time yet. Not that I was hiding it, but I didn't think it was necessary to talk about. But what if Cody knew about Dad's assets? And what if he was after that money? No, I should stop overthinking. Trying to shake off the bad thoughts, I took care of Dad and enjoyed our small talk.
"Thank you, Regina. Tamara, I'm a lucky man."
Don't be so formal. You don't need to say that. It's too early to be thankful. While Mom and I tried to dispel the gloom with laughter, only Dad smiled knowingly, squinting his eyes. That life with Dad ended too soon, 3 months later. Both Mom and I were unprepared for such an abrupt farewell. During the funeral, I was stunned, unable to accept the fact that Dad was no longer with us. On the contrary, Cody seemed alive and well, and I couldn't help but wonder. It was about a week after the funeral when my heart finally settled. As I was drinking alone in the living room, Cody came in. "Ah, finally, all the hassle is over," he said coldly, crossing his arms behind his head. "Hassle?" "Yeah. I was hoping Adam would kick the bucket soon, but when he did, the funeral and everything was a lot of work." "Hey, that's no way to talk. A person has died, and that person is my dad. How can you say such a thing?" I leaned in, incredulous at Cody's words, and retorted. Just as I thought. Cody had been hoping Dad would pass away sooner. I remembered Cody talking about Dad on the phone with someone. What was Cody's aim? "So, when do I get the inheritance? The Regina family is super rich, right? I know there's a lot of inheritance waiting." That's when I finally understood Cody's intentions. I never thought Cody was after Dad's assets, because I never talked to Cody about my family's money. But it seems Cody had realized Dad had quite an estate. "You look surprised." "Of course, I know. My family has always been dirt poor, struggling to eat 3 meals a day. Compared to that, your family lives comfortably, and your parents travel frequently. Just from that, I knew you were rich. So, I consulted in advance." "Consulted with whom?" Without any shame, Cody had deduced my family's financial situation and indeed mentioned he had consulted someone after revealing his thoughts. I remembered the day Cody was on the phone in the bedroom and thought that must be what he referred to as consulting. "I have a lawyer acquaintance. I asked him about old man's inheritance. I'm definitely getting my share." Well, I was appalled that Cody had discussed Dad's inheritance with a stranger without my consent, even while Dad was still alive. I doubted whether the creature standing before me was really my husband. "Don't worry. I'll be getting an answer soon. Looking forward to it." With that, Cody went back to the bedroom. He probably planned to contact that lawyer acquaintance again. I was taken aback by Cody's outrageous behavior. Where on earth does one find a husband who investigates his wife's parental inheritance on his own? The inheritance issue was my family's matter, not something for Cody to interfere in. Growing increasingly distrustful of Cody's actions, I found myself unable to speak to him. We lived in a Cold War state for a while, but the situation took a sudden turn a month later. Putting aside the fact that Cody was talking about inheritance, Dad's assets were rightfully passed on to me and my mother. I inherited a $2 million mansion from Dad, which felt beyond my worth. I had no immediate plans to move into the inherited house, but it seemed too wasteful to just let it sit there. As I was pondering whether to use it as a vacation home or to sell it, Cody spoke to me for the first time in a while. Regina, how are you? Living in the same house and asking how are you felt ironic. I ignored his words and picked up a book nearby. Don't ignore me. I've changed the deed of the mansion you inherited to my name. Hearing those shocking words, I looked up from the book I was about to read. What do you mean? I asked that lawyer I mentioned before to take care of it. The procedure? You mean the change of ownership? Yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe it, not just that he did it without telling me, but also that the lawyer agreed to such a thing. Now the house is mine. If you have a problem, let's get a divorce. Dad had just passed away, and here was Cody, gleefully boasting about changing the house's ownership to his name, making me dizzy. Changing ownership shouldn't be that easy. I thought Cody must be misunderstanding something. I hesitated about whether to retort to Cody. I was utterly furious at Cody's actions and couldn't easily forgive him. So, instead of retorting here, I wanted to devise a plan and get back at him properly. Then it's okay to get a divorce, but won't you regret it? Cody, seemingly not expecting me to agree to divorce so readily, let out a dumbfounded huh? No, I won't. Cody replied with a look as if to say, are you stupid? I see. He won't regret it. Then, I will not hold back. Don't come crying to me later. I scoffed at Cody's naive thoughts inwardly. Afterward, I began investigating Cody's background using all means available. First, I took some paid leave and thoroughly searched Cody's room while he was at work. Cody's messy room was filthy, with various items scattered all over the floor. Among them, I found something and picked it up, slipping it into my pocket quietly. Then, I tampered with the computer on Cody's desk, opening a messaging app. So this is the lawyer. The exchanges with this person named O'Connor were appalling. Most of them were about money. Moreover, it was about how to steal illegitimate money. I sighed in dismay. Cody, who was swayed by such a person, even seemed pitiful to me. Then, I left the room and headed to a certain place. After repeatedly engaging in laborious tasks, I went to confirm Cody's greediness. The more I investigated, the more I realized I had been living with such a person, and it sent shivers down my spine. After finishing the investigation on Cody and cooling off, I went to submit the divorce application. Since Cody had brought it up, filling in the necessary information and submitting it was simple. The divorce application was accepted at the office, and I officially divorced Cody. It was an unexpected divorce for me, but I no longer had any love left for Cody, who insulted Dad. The Cody I once knew was no more. Investigating revealed that Cody was a terrible man. Submitting the divorce application, the house was no longer mine. This house was originally bought in Cody's name, and there was a mortgage on it. I thought it would be proper for me to leave, but Cody did not return home from that day onwards. Probably, he is living in the mansion I inherited by now. Wonder if he's enjoying his life now. But, how long will that last, I wonder. I was very calm, thinking about Cody's future. And then, 3 days later, Cody finally appeared before me. Regina, you've already submitted the divorce application. As he entered through the front door, he asked with an anxious voice. Cody's sudden return and rude question made me reply with a what? So, are we divorced now? Cody raised his voice, seemingly in quite a panic. Yes. I submitted it 3 days ago. So now, you and I are strangers. What? A look of despair spread across Cody's face. Despite Cody being the one who asked for a divorce, he looked at me as if I were to blame. Why would you do something so selfish? Selfish? You were the one who said we should get divorced, didn't you? What's this all about now? Faced with my logical response, Cody fell silent for a moment. I had a hunch why Cody was suddenly blaming me for the divorce. Regina, please. Marry me again, otherwise This time, Cody slumped to the floor, kneeling and looking downhearted. I asked him with a look of pity. Oh, why? What happened? I pretty much knew what had happened, but I decided to feign ignorance and ask anyway. Just now, debt collectors came to my place. I called O'Connor, but it seems he's changed his number, and I can't reach him at all. I sent messages, but they're not being read. That guy, he tricked me. O'Connor was the so-called lawyer Cody mentioned. Cody's story was disjointed, but I had the gist of it. I had guessed what Cody had been up to when I searched his room. Ah, so you've been gambling all this time. I found all sorts of betting slips and bingo hall receipts in your room, and I even checked with the nearby poker room about your visit history. You've been going there for about a year, haven't you? That's why you ran out of money, right? When I checked our joint account, I noticed small withdrawals that I didn't recognize, and I realized you had even started dipping into our money. And then you got scammed by that lawyer? Yes, Cody had been gambling behind my back all this time. I had wondered why he was coming home late, not because he was out drinking, but because he was gambling. When Dad died and I inherited the assets, he must have thought it was an opportunity. He consulted with the man called O'Connor, a supposed lawyer, on how he could inherit the assets. That's right. I regret the gambling, but I was also tricked by that man. It seems the mansion you inherited isn't mine after all. I'll go bankrupt at this rate. Isn't that pitiful? So, help me. He had initiated the divorce himself, and now he was pleading to get back together. I was beyond angry at Cody's disgraceful behavior. Had he forgotten how he wished for Dad's death and disrespected him? I couldn't even think of him as my ex-husband anymore. Huh? What are you talking about? Aren't you the one at fault here? Pitiful? Do you think I would feel that way? The reason you were scammed is because of your own foolishness. The assets I inherited from Dad are considered separate property, not subject to division or unauthorized name changes. Yet, you were easily deceived by O'Connor and now you come crying to me? I will never forgive you. Cody, seeing my demonic expression as I firmly stated this, shrunk back in fear. I walked past Cody, opening the front door. Well, I'm moving to the mansion Dad left me. You can live in this house as you please. Good luck with the mortgage payments. Wait! Ignoring the pitiful man calling after me, I briskly walked away. A week later, I received a call on my mobile phone. The caller was Cody's mother, Catherine. I braced myself, thinking she would blame me for the divorce, but it was the opposite. Oh, Regina. I'm sorry. My son has done something terrible, hasn't he? I don't know how to apologize. No, you don't have to apologize for anything. No, I can't let this go. He even came asking for help to pay off his debts. I'm appalled. I told him he's going to get a thorough lecture from me at home. He won't be gambling again, that's for sure. He'll learn the value of money. For a while, he'll have to manage work and household chores on his own. Catherine, furious over Cody's misdeeds, was determined to make him suffer the consequences. I smirked to myself, wondering if he could endure his mother's discipline. This was his punishment for insulting Dad and trying to swindle my inheritance. I felt not a shred of pity for him. He should work hard on paying off his debts. As I declared, I moved to the mansion Dad left me. The furniture was already there, so I didn't need to buy anything new. I had to buy clothes and other small items since I left them at the previous house, but thinking about my new life of freedom made me excited. The new house is really spacious, almost too much for just one person to live in. I've had enough of marriage for now, but if time passes and I meet someone nice, I'll invite them over to this house. They're sure to be so surprised they'll be speechless. Just imagining the reaction of a future husband I haven't met yet makes me burst into laughter. Dad, thank you. Grateful to Dad for leaving me such a wonderful asset. I'm ready to take a new step forward. Seems like a son's wife is just an outsider, huh? No need to waste fancy coffee on a stranger like you. We'll enjoy it ourselves. With that, Emil grinned wickedly. Well, if that's how it's going to be, so be it. This is a game. A doubles game between Emil Elizabeth and Sale Felicia versus me and my husband. Strategy is key in a game. Just you watch. So, I cheerfully responded, gladly, with a big smile. My name is Diana. A 32-year-old working mother. Married to Elliot for 5 years. The day to build our own house has finally arrived. Building a house has been our goal since the beginning of our marriage. We visited various houses, took our time deciding, and diligently saved up. When our child was born 2 years into the marriage, our plans hit a snag. But Elliot and I persevered, and finally, we reached our savings goal. However, actually building the house was harder than imagined. A house is a big purchase. You can't just buy another if something goes wrong. We considered factors like transportation convenience, shopping accessibility, a child-friendly environment, and the reputation of local schools. And whether it was an easy commute for Elliot, a full-time employee. So many things to consider, even just finding the right location was tough. We eventually settled near the in-laws' house. It wasn't out of preference, but because the location was good. It wasn't about living together, but about bearing with minor annoyances. Once the land was decided, it was time to order the house. This was another challenge. Building our ideal home, with budget at the forefront, was full of issues. We progressed, step by step. But complicating matters further were Elizabeth and Felicia. For some reason, they kept interfering. When we mentioned building a house, both suddenly became interested. Elizabeth's eyes sparkled, and Felicia, in her late 20s and single, was excited. Where will it be built? Which home builder are you using? What will the interior look like? They asked all sorts of questions. I tried to brush them off. But then they somehow found out about our meetings with the home builder and the architect and started crashing them. How do they even find these things out? Sorry, it was me who talked. Elliot apologized. So you're the culprit? Even glaring at him, it was too late. If the kitchen storage is too little, Elizabeth would say, having a wooden deck is essential. Felicia would add, somebody, please sew these two's mouths shut. If you're doing barbecues in the garden, a big sink would be useful. A walk-in closet should be bigger, too. The windows should definitely be double-glazed for soundproofing. We'll need a bedroom for Mom and Dad, right? Shouldn't there be a room for Felicia to stay in too? One after another. Wait, hold on. Why do we need a bedroom for the parents-in-law? And what's this about a room for Felicia? Ignoring Elliot and me, Elizabeth and Felicia, with almost a smirk. Keep butting in, making the architect give a wry smile. After they left, I had to confirm with Elliot. I hoped not, but I had this bad feeling. Hey, we're not planning to live together, right? From their manner of speaking, I couldn't shake the feeling they were plotting just that. I hesitantly asked Elliot, who shook his head in a hurry. No way! Dad wouldn't think of leaving the house he's used to. And Felicia's old enough, even if our parents' house was gone, there's no way she'd move in with us. That's what I thought.
Elliot denied it, but my anxiety didn't disappear. Somehow ignoring Elizabeth and Felicia's interference, we decided on the design and started construction. And a year later, our dream house was finally completed. It was tough, long, and oh so annoying. Lying on the living room sofa after moving in, I closed my eyes and recalled all the hardships. It was educational and fun looking at various properties.
Hey Mom, is it okay to put my cup here? Why not? Let's use this corner of the cupboard for mine and Felicia's things.
There were times, pointed out by the architect, when I felt disheartened by the difference between the ideal and the reality.
The best room on the second floor has to be sunny, right? I'll take the biggest one? Yeah, I'm getting old, a small room would be tiring. Let's go with that.
I really wanted to plant a viburnum in the garden. But who knew I'd have to research the type of soil, too.
Okay, then I'll call the moving company.
Thanks. You're reliable, Felicia. And then there's, wait, what's with these people swarming my house?
Elizabeth and Felicia. Why are you meddling with things inside the house? We're just moving things to make it more livable.
Felicia replied nonchalantly to my question. My clothes, still in boxes, were pushed to a corner, and somehow Felicia's clothes were making their way into the closet. Elizabeth too.
This new house is nice. It's exciting,
said, making herself coffee and starting to eat cookies. No, crumbs on the floor.
Hey, both of you, stop doing whatever you please. This is our house, you know.
I shouted, panicked, as the two behaved as if they were the ones who would be living here. But at that moment, the atmosphere changed.
What are you talking about?
Felicia said.
Huh?
As I tilted my head in confusion, Felicia pointed and continued.
This house was built by my brother Elliot.
Elizabeth nodded in agreement.
That's right. It's my son Elliot's house. What's wrong with parents or siblings living here?
There's plenty wrong with it. The worry I had since before the house was built seemed to be turning into reality. Could it be these two?
Then that settles it. Felicia and I will take the big room on the second floor. The room next to it will be Elliot's, no problem, right? There's a big problem. The big room is for me and my husband, and the next room is for our son.
What are you talking about?
Elliot and the grandson can just share.
What Elizabeth said made no sense.
No, it's too small for Elliot, me, and our son. Elliot and the grandson can manage. I'm here too, you know.
What are you talking about? That's when Elizabeth looked at me with a sinister smile.
Listen here. This house was built by Elliot, who's related by blood. That means it's the right of his blood relatives to live here. You're just an outsider, a stranger. You should just sleep on that sofa over there,
she said, pointing to the sofa. You're kidding, right? Elizabeth and Felicia seem serious about living in this house. My precious home is about to be occupied by this alien mother-daughter duo. Worried, I consulted Elliot that night. Luckily, they hadn't stayed over yet, but since they were talking about movers, they might seriously start living here soon.
Hey, are you really going to give them the biggest room?
No way. Of course not. When I told Elliot about today, he frowned.
But they're talking about turning our room into Elizabeth and Felicia's room?
That's a bit much. Elliot, looking troubled, tilted his head and talked with Elizabeth and Felicia the next day. And I thought they understood.
What, Elizabeth? What are you doing?
We're moving in. They didn't get it at all. During the day, when our son was at daycare and Elliot was at work, Elizabeth arrived with movers and started bringing in boxes.
Moving in.
Really, such an inflexible daughter-in-law. Why should we have to settle for a small room? That's practically ungrateful. After all, a son's wife is just a stranger.
Didn't Elliot tell you anything? He did. No to the big room.
What a narrowed-down version of the story. Living in this house at all is the problem. I was stunned as they moved everything in. The space intended for our son's room was now occupied by heaps of cardboard boxes, and then Felicia arrived. Oh no, it's a small room.
Felicia. What on earth? Hi, Diana, let's get along from now on. Since it's the joyous first day of moving in, let's have a luxurious dinner, okay? No.
Ignoring me, Elizabeth and Felicia disappeared into their room and closed the door. Oh, great. Due to Elizabeth and Felicia's surprise invasion, our new home was now occupied by the enemy. Suddenly, I was living with the occupying force. Cleaning, laundry, cooking, all my responsibility, which I wasn't happy about. And them using our stuff without permission was upsetting. But I couldn't really tell them not to use things since we were living together. As I was thinking this, Felicia took out a bottle of wine. That was something I bought for myself, but before I could say anything, she drank it. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Elizabeth generously using my expensive lotion. That's expensive stuff. I ordered various things for the luxurious dinner, and of course, I had to pay. Elizabeth and Felicia ate all the delivered dinner. I didn't get a single bite. Elizabeth and Felicia always took showers before me, my husband, and our son. And they always left the hot water running. They never contributed to the utility bills. And they watched TV late into the night at high volume. The house was a mess, dirty everywhere. I'm always positive. Gradually, the absurdity became amusing. I decided to enjoy it. This was a hospitality game with Elizabeth and Felicia. Getting angry is bad for the skin, after all. So, let the hospitality game begin. One holiday. During a day off when Elliot and our son were home, Felicia woke up scratching her head and sat at the dining table. And she asked me, I'm so sleepy. Didn't get enough sleep. Is there coffee? Still sleepy after sleeping till noon. Then Elizabeth woke up. And similarly,
Diana, make some coffee,
she said, so I stood up. This is a game, a game. I win if I impress them. With that thought, I opened the cabinet with the coffee.
Let's see, there should be the instant coffee I bought yesterday.
It was a bit more expensive than usual. I showed it with a smug face, but they both looked disappointed. Don't they like it? Then Felicia stood up and started searching the cabinet. And
found it,
she said, taking out coffee beans.
Those are from a gift Elliot got from his boss.
It's not just any coffee, it's premium. We don't drink coffee from beans at home, so it was kind of wasted on us. Misunderstanding my expression, Felicia smirked.
What, hiding such good beans, Diana? You're so mean. Eh?
Elizabeth nodded at Felicia's words.
Really? You don't want us, who are not blood related, to drink delicious coffee. You're definitely an outsider. Such an outsider doesn't deserve this luxury coffee. What?
We'll drink this gifted premium coffee.
An outsider like you is fine with instant coffee, lol.
And Elizabeth laughed. This is not making any sense. But there's no interpreter. For me, it's actually a relief that they're using up the bean coffee. Seeing Elliot nodding in agreement.
Sure, I'd be glad to,
I said with a smile. She probably didn't expect that kind of response.
What?
Elizabeth looked surprised. Ignoring that, I took the coffee beans from Felicia.
All right, I'll make some delicious coffee now. Okay then.
Felicia seemed puzzled by my smile. There I was, rolling up my sleeves, ready to go. Let the game begin, making delicious coffee. But when I opened the bag and saw the beans, I was a bit stumped. I called Elliot, who was looking worried, for a consultation. He came over as I gestured.
What's up? Hey! How do you use coffee beans?
I've never made coffee from beans before. I asked Elliot, but I don't know either. He replied. Now we're in trouble. Our game of making the best coffee has hit a snag right from the start. Should we look it up online? No, that's the last resort. What to do then? Just have to wring out whatever little knowledge we have.
I think you have to grind them into a powder,
said Elliot. Okay, that makes sense.
But we don't have a mill or a blender. What about a mortar?
It got lost during the move. After some thought.
Maybe it's fine just to use the beans as they are?
I strongly agreed with Elliot's suggestion. So, let's give it a try. Beans as they are, into the coffee maker's filter. Okay, pour hot water over this.
Look, Diana, it's getting color. Really? So it's a success.
The color is super light, but surely that's what premium coffee looks like. Encouraged, we continued pouring hot water.
It's done. We've made premium coffee.
We proudly presented it to Elizabeth and Felicia. Elizabeth and Felicia sighed deeply at us.
Finally done? How long did it take you to? Seriously. Because of a stranger son's wife, time is wasted. It's so light.
Elizabeth smirked as she criticized me, then screamed when she saw the coffee.
What? It's so light. Is this tea?
Felicia frowned at the coffee too. We, the couple, shook our heads in disbelief.
Genuine premium coffee, extracted from high-quality beans. It's probably light in color because it's high class. We have milk and sugar if you need, but you should try it straight first.
With a musical note, I cheerfully pushed the cups towards them.
But... Please, go ahead. Elliot, is this really premium coffee? Yeah, the finest kind Diana and I made. Try it.
After being cheerfully encouraged by both of us, they reluctantly tasted the coffee. Immediately after.
So weak. Disgusting.
Elizabeth and Felicia both exclaimed.
What is this? This is not coffee. What is this? It's definitely weird. Diana, how did you make this coffee?
I just poured hot water over the beans.
What?
Was something wrong? I looked at Elliot, but he just shrugged. Weird, I just made it normally.
Too high class for your taste? Huh? I am a woman who suits high class stuff. It's this coffee that's odd. Ah, good. Then please drink it all. No, but I mean... Here you go.
If high-end stuff suits them, they'll surely get used to it while drinking. So, there's only one thing to do. I pushed the coffee cup to Felicia's mouth and made her drink forcefully. Meanwhile, Elliot, calling it filial piety, was encouraging Elizabeth to drink. Now, this is getting fun. The daily game is enjoyable.
Elizabeth, shall we clean your room? Hey, at least knock first. Ah, sorry. Since you always enter our room without knocking, I thought it wasn't necessary. Felicia, all this stuff on the floor is trash, right? I'll throw it all away. That's a premium bag. Elizabeth, since you said the seasoning was too light yesterday, I made it stronger today. Too strong. Not just strong, it's spicy.
Felicia, it seems you like my lotion, but I have something better. It has a unique smell, but it's good for your skin.
Smelly. What is this? Don't put it on my face.
The game of pleasing them was getting more and more fun. I continued to serve them with increasing enthusiasm. They cried with joy, so I win. Elliot was also doing various things, but as I spend more time with them, I have the advantage. Then one day, Elizabeth and Felicia disappeared. Huh? Then I received a call from Fael. Oh right, Freddie from the in-laws' house. How has he been? Enjoying a carefree solo life? That's good. According to Freddie,
Elizabeth and Felicia came back crying. What happened? Elizabeth's lips are swollen, and Felicia's skin is shiny but smells terrible,
he said. They must have been so happy they went to report to Freddie. But they shouldn't think it's over yet. There's a barbecue in the garden tonight. I'm setting up a trampoline for Elizabeth and Felicia to enjoy, so I'll go pick them up now. I announced and went to fetch them from the in-laws' house. For some reason, they ran away, and a chase began. Eventually, I easily caught elderly Elizabeth and Felicia, who boasted about knowing all the hiding spots since childhood, was found by Elliot.
Stop it! Stop it, please!
They cried with joy, no need to be shy. A few days later, movers suddenly arrived and took Elizabeth and Felicia's stuff away. Why? I wanted to show more hospitality, I said to them hiding behind Freddie at the in-laws' house, and they shook their heads vigorously with pale faces. Elliot looked genuinely disappointed. Hey Elliot, seems like our hospitality wasn't enough for Elizabeth and them. Is that so? Maybe we need to study more. Hearing this conversation, Elizabeth and Felicia began to tremble. After that, Elizabeth and Felicia stopped coming to our house. Even when I greet them in the neighborhood,
Hello,
they run away immediately. Well, it's fine. Peaceful days returned. We remodeled their room into our son's room, and were even talking about having another child. Feeling a bit unfulfilled now the game is over, unnoticed Freddie stood beside me. The real ditzy ones never realize they're ditzy, do they? And muttered.
You deserve this for standing up to me, you worthless wife.
Christopher yelled and threw me into the shed. I fell and hit my back against something, groaning in pain. Meanwhile, Christopher shut the door. The shed was engulfed in darkness in an instant. I leaped towards the door and pounded on it fiercely. But it didn't open. It seemed like Christopher did something from the outside. The door felt heavy, and I was overwhelmed by a sense of despair. Was this all my fault? No, I had been aware of Christopher's flamboyant affairs even when we were dating, but I turned a blind eye. Because I loved him. But everyone has their breaking point. Today was mine. When I confronted Christopher about his cheating, he flipped out, leading to this mess. I won't forgive him. No matter what, I will get out of here and make Christopher realize his mistake. But I can't think of a plan. As I'm overwhelmed by my raging emotions, I hear the door open. My name is Mariah. I'm a 44-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Christopher, who is 5 years younger than me. We don't have kids because Christopher didn't want any. I had always dreamt of becoming a mom, but by the time I got married, I was already 35, an age when pregnancy becomes challenging. But now, I think it's probably for the best. Christopher would have too many issues as a dad, and I can't imagine dealing with a child in my current mental state. I met Christopher 12 years ago. I was 32, and he was a youthful 27 years old. We were colleagues, and he often affectionately called me Mariah. I was immediately attracted to Christopher. He was good-looking, cheerful, and friendly. But I couldn't exactly call myself beautiful, and considering our age difference, I didn't think I stood a chance. Then, out of the blue, Christopher confessed his feelings for me. I couldn't believe it, but I was overjoyed and quickly accepted. Our relationship started smoothly. Christopher was understanding about my insecurities regarding my age and appearance. "Don't worry about that," he said. I was happy. The reason Christopher chose me was a mystery, but as long as I believed he loved me, it felt like everything was resolved. But it was a sweet illusion. As our first anniversary approached, Christopher's true nature began to reveal itself. He always used the same excuse: "I forgot my wallet," making me pay for all our date expenses. Up until then, we had been splitting the bill, so the sudden financial burden hurt. More than that, Christopher's repeated excuses for not paying made me see him as insincere. Once, I decided to beat him to it, and said, "I forgot my wallet," before he said so. It was right after we met up. Christopher responded immediately. "Why don't you go get it? Your place is close, right?" "Close? I took the train here, you know that's not happening." After a nonchalant nod, Christopher turned his back on me. "Christopher? If you don't have money, we can't go on a date, right? Let's call it a day." With a wave, he disappeared into the crowd. All I could do was to stand there, dumbfounded. I began to feel uneasy about my relationship with Christopher. Could I ever be happy with him? Even with those doubts, I couldn't leave him. I had a relationship with only one guy before Christopher. The first relationship was during my student days, a brief 6-month affair that ended when he found someone else. As for Christopher, he was quite popular with the women at work. He knew it too, smoothly delegating his tasks to them. He hadn't tried that with me yet, but when would his feelings change? I grew increasingly timid and even more dependent on Christopher. His smile, his sweet words. I convinced myself they were privileges only for me. But Christopher never understood my desperate clinging. One day at work, I overheard him talking to another male colleague. "I'm with Mariah, but she's the best option for now. She's older, but she pays for our dates, even gifts me watches sometimes. If I were to marry, Mariah seems like a good choice. The other two spend too much, no way." Christopher was seeing 2 other women besides me. I secretly hired a detective to investigate him. I wanted to prove what I heard was a mistake. But the reality was harsh. One of Christopher's girlfriends was a colleague. Another worked for a client company. After much contemplation, I chose to overlook Christopher's promiscuity. He had chosen me as his partner for marriage. Perhaps it was because I catered to Christopher, never complaining about his whims. I believed that once we were married, his bad habits would disappear. But after the wedding, he started staying out blatantly. Upon investigation, it was always with women in their early to mid-30s. Christopher was irresistibly drawn to the financial security these women provide and the inferiority these women felt towards him, leading them to devote themselves completely. Christopher had a girlfriend named Carol. When she realized she'd been deceived, she came to apologize to me first. "I'm so sorry. Christopher told me he was single." "It's okay, we're both victims here," I said calmly. Carol was 35. The age I was when I got married. She had been with Christopher for 2 years. For a woman, that's precious time spent on Christopher. It was even sadder knowing she had seriously considered marrying him. Carol promised to break it off with Christopher. I promised to support her if anything happened. That day, Christopher seemed restless. He had a 2-night, 3-day company trip to Los Angeles starting tomorrow. After he finished packing, Christopher tried to hurry back to his room. I was cleaning up after dinner when I suddenly spoke up. I talked to Carol. Who's that? Christopher tilted his head, feigning ignorance. I spread the documents I received from the detective on the table. I've known for a while that you have been seeing many women. Mariah, what are you doing? Christopher lost it. Yeah, you're right. So what? I gave those girls a good dream. I deserve something in return. Carol was hurt. I mustn't let myself get angry alongside him. I remained calm and said, she believed you would marry her. So, what? You gonna divorce me, Mariah? Then maybe I'd consider. No, forget it. She's not thoughtful enough, and there are better women out there. Christopher. I was shocked. I expected him to be upset, but to casually talk about divorce and compare Carol like that. Anyway, Mariah, you know what happens when you cross me, right? I was confused. Christopher was the one in the wrong. Yet, he acted as if I had broken some rules. He forcefully grabbed my arm, making me stand up, and led me outside. There it was, the shed. He stopped in front of it, flung open the door, and threw me inside. You deserve this for standing up to me, you worthless wife. I fell and hit my back against something, groaning in pain. Christopher, you can't be serious. By the time I turned around, Christopher had already shut the door. I rushed to the door in shock, but it wouldn't open. Christopher must have done something from the outside. Reflect on this. I'm going out. Wait, Christopher. Please wait. Being locked up here, I couldn't care less about reflection. I would get thirsty and hungry. If I can't get out of here, I'll wither away. And with Christopher leaving for a company trip tomorrow, what will become of me after 3 days of being left here? I had hoped he might let me out soon. But his footsteps faded away, and the yard fell silent. The shed had no windows. With the door shut, the inside was pitch black. A sense of vulnerability crept up from my feet. Had I really done something so terrible? I knew Christopher could be cold-hearted, but I had never imagined it would go this far. Maybe he doesn't care what happens to me. Perhaps he'll actually leave me locked up here while he's on his trip. Then, it happened. Mariah. A soft voice called out. I was startled. The door had opened. There stood Carol, Christopher's ex-girlfriend. She had come to see me. She rang the doorbell but got no response, and noticing noise from the yard, she came to check. I saw Christopher locking you in here. It's terrible. It's okay. I chose to be with him, knowing what kind of man he is. This is on me, I said, as if convincing myself. But I'm grateful. I'm glad you were here. I dated Christopher too, indirectly taking you for granted. That's not true. I slowly shook my head. You didn't know anything. You truly liked Christopher. That's all, right? Just like me. Mariah. Carol looked like she was about to cry, quickly wiping her tears with the back of her hand. I told her, Carol, I need your help. Will you stand up to Christopher with me? Carol looked at me in surprise. Stand up to Christopher? What are you planning? I'll explain it now. After I shared the plan, Carol was shocked but nodded in agreement. Christopher had apparently gone to a friend's house. Once we made sure he wasn't home, Carol and I went back inside the house. The plan would begin with Christopher's return. The day I was locked into the shed and the 3 days of the company trip passed. Christopher came out to the yard. She must be okay, right? He mumbled in front of the shed. Realizing the severity of his actions, he was probably feeling guilty. But it was too late. Hey, Mariah. The reflection time's over. You can come out now. Christopher opened the shed door. The moment he did, his expression froze. He rubbed his eyes as if not trusting what he saw and looked inside the shed again. The result didn't change. "Who are you?" In front of Christopher, a woman who was not me sat huddled. In his mind, I had been locked in there the whole time. It was impossible for the clothes or hairstyle to change midway. The woman looked up. Christopher's face contorted even more. "Carol, what are you doing? Where's Mariah?" "I'm right here." I emerged from where I was hiding. At the same time, Carol stood up. Surrounded by the two of us, Christopher looked back and forth between me and Carol, flustered. "What are you two up to?" "Relax. We're not going to lock you up. Just calm down and listen to what Carol has to say." "Carol's story?" Christopher frowned, and Carol seemed to recoil. But she didn't run away. She opened her mouth and blurted it out. "Christopher, you've been deceiving me. I'm going to demand compensation." "What?" Christopher seemed about to explode with anger, but somehow held back. After watching his reaction, I spoke up. "Christopher, let's get a divorce. And of course, you'll be paying compensation to me as well." "You too. What's with both of you? You are giving women dreams, right? In return, you accepted their devotion. But it's time to come back to reality." Yes, this was our decision. To impose a financial penalty on Christopher. But it wasn't over yet. Christopher's mobile phone rang.
"Hello? Dad? It's a bad time. I'll call back later. Apologize to Mariah now? Dad, you can't be serious."
"I've told Polly and the others everything." Christopher's face turned pale. Then, things moved quickly. My Raphael, Polly, rushed over from his family home and fiercely reprimanded his son. I had copied all the documents I received from the detective and sent them to Polly.
"I've heard it all from Mariah. What kind of person are you? This is the end of our relationship with you." "No, Dad."
Christopher looked at Polly with tears in his eyes. But Polly's resolve was firm. He ordered Christopher to pay all the compensation to the two women himself.
"Don't be ridiculous, Dad. Please don't say that."
Christopher clung to Polly.
"Please, I beg you. I'll change. So, can you at least pay half?" "Be quiet. You're embarrassing. Mariah, I'm sorry. I never thought my son could be this terrible. I'll make sure he has nothing to do with you anymore."
"Please don't worry about it, Polly." Christopher faced a substantial compensation claim from the lawyer hired by me and Carol and was forced to pay a significant amount. Christopher's misdeeds spread quickly among both families. They whispered about disowning him, and eventually, the gossip reached his workplace.
"I've been fired from my job."
"I see." I remained calm and collected. Christopher, with a trembling voice and downcast eyes.
"I can't pay the compensation."
He kept repeating.
"How can I pay it without a job? I also have been cut off from relatives. There's nothing I can do."
"That's how I felt, Christopher, when you locked me up. Trapped in the dark, unable to go anywhere or do anything. That feeling of being left in the dark with no way out." Now, Christopher was tasting that same despair. There was another fact Christopher didn't know. Carol was pregnant. I was shocked, but even more, I was happy for her.
"Congratulations. I know it'll be tough as a single mom, but you can do it."
"Thank you. I'll try my best to be a good mom." We didn't want Christopher's sins to burden the child. We wished for the child to grow up strong and straightforward, like Carol. I also thought if I hadn't given up on having a child with Christopher, maybe I'd have had another family member. I asked Carol, "Please let me meet the child when they are born," and saw her off. A child. I intensely wished for one too. Eventually, I decided to adopt once my life was stable. Christopher was gone, so I stayed in the house, and there were part-time jobs available at the nearby grocery store or supermarket. All right, time to gear up. Life felt more vibrant with a purpose. I made friends at work, and the joy of mutual support was new to me, as Christopher had never helped me. Then, here came the long-awaited adoption. The process and preparations were extensive, but I didn't mind. I met her. Not related by blood, but undoubtedly my child. I knew at the moment I saw her. This is the child. Violet recognized me as her mom. Innocently. Mom, she called me. Christopher, you wouldn't understand, but the joy of having a child is immense. This is my revenge. Walking my path with my newfound Violet. Not seeking affirmation from Christopher's sweet nothings. To recognize and believe in myself. As a person, as a mom. You always seem so happy these days, said David, my boss. David was 39. Coincidentally the same age as Christopher. But unlike Christopher, David was unpretentious, earnest, and a bit inept. They were entirely different. Perhaps that's why I could open up to a man of Christopher's age. Mariah, you adapted to work quickly, you're reliable. It's all thanks to your guidance, David, I said with a laugh. David, for some reason, blushed and looked away. Mariah, do you have plans for your next day off? That day. I'm going to the amusement park with Violet. Oh, right. Wouldn't want to intrude. What about the day after? David, what's up? I noticed that. David's gaze towards me was gentle. It seemed unsettled at some point, as if hiding another emotion. Now I understand. It was probably similar to the feelings I once had for Christopher. David took a deep breath and blurted out. Mariah, would you go out with me? And so, David became my partner. At first, Violet was wary, but she warmed up to him after a few meetings. One day, while enjoying afternoon tea with Violet at home, the doorbell rang. Violet cheerfully replied, "Coming," and ran to the door. Then returned with a pleased look. It's someone you know, Mom. Who? A tall man. Her words alarmed me. There was only one person that came to mind. I told Violet firmly. Don't come out. A dangerous person? Okay. Violet sensed my tension and looked worriedly at me. It's okay. Mom won't lose. I patted Violet's head and went to the door. As expected, it was him. Who's that kid? His first words weren't even a greeting. Apparently, it was Christopher. What do you want? I asked. I need money, Mariah. You can see, right? Indeed, Christopher looked terrible. He hadn't found a steady job since moving from one acquaintance's house to another. Eventually, he had nowhere to stay and ended up on the streets. I don't have money to lend you. Hey, Mariah. You've gotten pretty arrogant. Think you've beaten me? Life isn't about winning or losing. But Christopher wouldn't understand that. No pity. Just disgust. Christopher took a step closer. Mariah, please. This is the last time. I won't show my face again. I'll go to another state and start over. I just need the money for that. I sighed. His promise to disappear was welcome. But should I help this man? Mom? Then, I heard Violet's voice and footsteps. I turned around in a panic. Don't come here! I told Violet, but she didn't stop. Don't trouble Mom. If it's money you need, I'll give it to you. With that, Violet pressed $1 into Christopher's hand. Christopher stood there, stunned, then collapsed and started crying. A child's innocence. It was the happiness Christopher had once rejected. Violet will start elementary school next year, so we went to look for a school bag. David came along. As the three of us entered the store. What a lovely family. The store manager remarked. Violet beamed proudly, and David and I blushed. Mom, I like this color. Let's see. Violet picked an orange bag. It would suit her lively personality well. Let's consider this a gift from me.
Oh, you shouldn't.
I attempted to counter David's impromptu gesture.
I want to give it from me. Then, I'll consider this as a gift from you too.
Violet chimed in cheerfully. David and I looked at each other and nodded in agreement. Sounds good. Yes, let's do that. So we split the cost and bought the new bag together. Being so delighted, Violet didn't let go of the bag all day, even holding it while sleeping. Meanwhile, David approached me with a certain proposal. About the venue.
I don't need a wedding. I didn't have one with my previous husband, and I'm past the age for wedding dresses. That's not true. I want to see you in a wedding dress, Mariah.
David insisted. I recalled Christopher, who begrudged even a wedding ring, let alone wedding expenses. David was different. He proposed with a ring. Now, we're saving for the wedding.
You want to see Mom in a dress, right?
Yes. David had skillfully brought Violet to his side. I could only surrender with a smile. In preparation for the wedding, I embarked on a diet. All the effort paid off when I could wear the dress of my dreams, a moment of immense joy. I couldn't thank David enough for suggesting the wedding. During the ceremony, an emotional David started crying, causing a stir among friends and colleagues. I spent most of the time calming him down, but the ceremony was memorable and fantastic. Afterward, I sold the house I lived in with Christopher. It held memories, but they were all tainted with Christopher's lies. David's apartment was small, but it felt right for our fresh start. The wedding photo took center stage in our new home. David and I smiled awkwardly at the camera. Violet started elementary school. Her bright personality helped her fit in right away. She'd come home and share stories about her friends from school.
I came first in the race. That's amazing. Just like David and me.
Violet blushed, and so did David. I'm profoundly grateful for meeting these two and becoming a family. My past life revolved around pleasing and depending on Christopher. It was my life, yet it felt like it was lived for Christopher. Now, I'm walking a life for myself. Not just for me, but for David and Violet too. Our future shines brightly. My name is Sophie. I've been a housewife for 3 years now, married. My husband Tim works for a top-tier company as a businessman, and we live on the 20th floor of a high-rise apartment. The night view from our living room is incredibly beautiful, but being raised in the countryside, I initially wanted in a lower-floor apartment when we first got married. However, I agreed to accommodate my husband's wish to live in a high-rise. We both belonged to the same tennis club in college. Tim, 2 years my senior, was a leader, whereas I joined somewhat casually and was a rather inconspicuous member. Back then, Tim had a girlfriend, so we weren't that close during college. But, a couple of years after I graduated and started working at a law firm, I ran into Tim by chance at a bar. Feeling nostalgic, we chatted about old times and exchanged contact information. Both of us were single at the time, so we gradually began to date. Tim was as sociable as ever with a wealth of topics, and I often found myself listening to his stories. Working at a top-tier company, Tim faced a lot of stress, so dating me seemed to be a source of encouragement for him. After dating for about a year and a half, Tim proposed to me. I had just started my 3rd year at the law firm and acquired my paralegal certification, and I wanted to continue working even after marriage, but I earn enough for us to live comfortably. I want you, Sophie, to stay at home, he said, so I resigned from my job upon marrying him. I never disliked cooking or housekeeping, even when I lived alone, so I enjoyed my days as a housewife. With no financial worries and living in a high-rise, even my parents and friends envied me. So, I focused on making sure Tim could concentrate on his work, carefully planning meals with balanced nutrition and cleaning diligently every day. Then, one day, as Tim was enjoying his favorite hamburger steak at the dinner table, he cheerfully said,
"We've been invited to dinner by the couple living on the top floor."
Eh?
That stunningly handsome and beautiful couple who looks like celebrities? Yeah, exactly. I sometimes see the husband at the gym downstairs. We're the same age, which surprised me. Our high-rise has a community gym on the second floor. I'm not fond of machine workouts and only occasionally go for yoga, but Tim, who loves exercise, goes 2 or 3 times a week. Really? That intelligent-looking man with glasses? Yeah. He's an IT company CEO, apparently. Well, living on the top floor, he must be doing well. Then, should we book a fancy restaurant for the dinner? No, we've been invited to their place. Tim explained that he bumped into the couple at the apartment entrance today and got invited. Sophie, they said they'd like you to come too. Is that okay? I've only exchanged brief greetings with them. It's an invitation, so why not? Besides, I'm curious about the top floor. Tim, who can easily socialize with anyone, said. On the other hand, I, being shy, wasn't too keen on the idea. I wondered if it was just a polite gesture from them. But before I knew it, the plan became a reality, and we were visiting them this weekend. I brought some simple homemade dishes, but the couple had a professional chef cook for us. It was my first experience of such a luxury, so I felt overwhelmed. However, Wendy, the wife, was friendly and easy to talk to, and by the end of the meal, I felt as comfortable as with a friend. Excited, we talked about our experience. Even after returning from Wendy's place. I haven't had such a good chat in a long time, it was truly enjoyable. Becoming a housewife meant I didn't get to see my friends as much, so meeting Wendy was a delightful event for me. Maybe you could go for lunch with her sometimes? Wendy doesn't seem to work every day. And having a chef at home, that's just on another level. Wendy worked as a freelance designer, handling wallpaper and curtain designs, and seemed to have her own clientele, working at her own pace. I often work from home, so let's have tea together sometime. She suggested as we were leaving. Yeah, she's as beautiful as a movie star, but so approachable and genuinely nice. I'd be happy to become friends with her. Yeah, she really is beautiful. Probably the most beautiful woman I've ever met. Really? Saying that in front of me? No, it's different. Sophie, you're cute, right? It's a different type. You don't have to explain so desperately. I know myself well enough. I made a slightly pouting face, but seeing Tim's wry smile, I burst into laughter. Seeing me laugh, Tim joined in. It had been a while since we had such a lively atmosphere, joking around. Maybe it was all thanks to meeting the Wendy couple. But little did I know then, this encounter would lead to an incredible challenge. Since then, Tim and I haven't visited Wendy's place together, but Wendy and I became close enough to frequently meet for lunch or tea. One of my worries was that Tim and I were unable to have children. I was considering fertility treatment but couldn't bring myself to discuss it with Tim. I could openly share these feelings with Wendy, though. Fertility treatment can be tough. Maybe it's okay to leave things to nature for a while? Yeah, maybe. But somehow, I feel like Tim isn't that keen on having children. I see. It's tough, isn't it, the feelings between a couple? In my case, it's the opposite. My husband wants kids, but I'm not so enthusiastic. Really? Yeah. I had a miscarriage before. After that experience, I thought maybe it's okay not to try to get pregnant again. Oh, I'm sorry. That was insensitive of me. No, don't worry about it. It's all in the past now. Seeing Wendy's smiling response, I thought how strong she was. You're right. I should just let nature take its course for a bit. I need to cherish the happiness I have now. Wendy's expression seemed to cloud over for a moment as she looked at my smiling face. Shall we head back? I have a design I need to think about by tomorrow. I nodded to Wendy's always graceful demeanor, wondering if I had just imagined that brief change. But from that day on, every time we met, Wendy seemed to be getting thinner. One day, concerned, I asked her, Wendy, is something troubling you?
I might not be able to solve it, but I'm here to listen if you want. Thank you. Actually, my husband and I are talking about divorce. What? I was speechless with shock. They had seemed so happy when Tim and I visited their home. What could have happened? Sophie, you're the only one I can talk to. What should I do? Wendy began to speak slowly, tears in her eyes. It seems my husband really wanted children. We've had arguments before, but I never imagined he was having an affair. According to Wendy, her husband was involved with a colleague at work. He had told her he would pay compensation for a divorce. Can you believe it? Before we were married, other men proposed to me too. He worked so hard every day to win me over, and now he wants to leave? What am I supposed to do now? It's shocking. I shouldn't interfere in your marriage, but maybe you should talk to your husband again? While feeling a bit uneasy about Wendy's situation, I chose my words carefully to avoid hurting her. After pouring her heart out to me, she whispered, "Things will surely work out." And then Wendy left. That evening at dinner, I opened up to Tim about Wendy and her husband's situation. How is Wendy's husband doing lately? That's the thing, I haven't seen him recently. He hasn't been at the gym for about a week now. Is that so? But he didn't seem like the type to cheat. What are you talking about? It's always the serious, intellectual types that turn out to be the worst. Initially, Tim had praised him for being an IT company CEO, but his sudden change of attitude made me feel uneasy. Within a month, Wendy came to tell me they were getting a divorce. Oh, what should I say? It's okay. I've come to terms with it. For now, I'll be staying here. Alone? Yes. I arranged that as part of the conditions of the divorce. Kind of like a compensation. Seeing Wendy so nonchalant about it scared me. Can people really change this much in such a short time? Still, knowing it wasn't my place to comment on their decision, I continued my friendship with Wendy as before. However, not long after this incident, cracks began to appear in my own marriage with Tim. Tim started coming home later than before and often went out on weekends. He claimed he was working overtime or attending business drinking parties, but sometimes he wouldn't contact me until after midnight, and I had to confront him about it. Tim, I understand that work is busy, but isn't it too much lately? What do you mean? What are you trying to say? Is it really just work? What else would it be? Of course, it's work. Then, at least let me know when you'll be late. I prepare meals and everything. Huh. Sometimes, a sudden client dinner comes up. I have more responsibilities at work now. Being a housewife who plays at home, you wouldn't understand. I was half astonished by Tim's selfish reasoning. Wasn't it Tim who wanted me to stay home in the first place? I thought I was making our daily life comfortable for him. Ignoring my opinion, Tim just walked away to his bedroom. We had started sleeping in separate bedrooms a few months ago, per Tim's request. I need proper sleep for work, he had said, but our intimate life had also disappeared, making me suspect he might be seeing someone else. Tired of having negative thoughts at home every day, I considered returning to work. So, I discussed this with Wendy. It's not just me going through this, huh? I haven't confirmed he's cheating, but I'm tired of suspecting him every day. That's why I'm thinking of going back to my old job. That sounds good. I think you should work. Besides, I have a feeling Tim might have found someone else. Wendy's words about someone else stuck in my mind. Maybe, but until I hear it from him, I've decided not to press the issue anymore. Wendy, thanks for listening. I'll try my best to get back into employment. Wendy nodded slowly, giving me her usual graceful smile. The next day, I went to the law firm where I used to work. There, I found out that Georgie, the lawyer I used to work for as a paralegal, had left the firm. Apparently, he had opened a detective agency a year ago. He was the one who taught me various job skills since my first year as a professional. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was thanks to him I became a paralegal. Wanting to discuss my future career, I decided to visit his detective agency.
Georgie, long time no see. Surprised you came all this way. It's been a while, hasn't it? Since your wedding, so about 3 years?
It's been that long already. You helped me so much.
No problem. So, what brings you here today? What happened?
As I discussed my intention to return to work, I ended up honestly sharing my marital troubles and suspicions that my husband might have a mistress.
Our office is a detective agency, quite different from your previous job. How about working here? Really? Yeah, we're actually short-handed and we're just thinking of hiring someone. We've been quite busy since we started, receiving investigation requests from the law firm I used to work at. Income is more than double what I earned as a lawyer. I can offer you a similar salary to before. Of course, this job isn't always pleasant. There are times when the pay doesn't even add up to $3 an hour.
Georgie, you're incredible. But why did you decide to quit being a lawyer?
Maybe I wanted to change my life,
Georgie said, looking distant as if recalling those days. Then, looking me straight in the eyes, he continued.
I think it's important for you to start a new life by investigating Tim and uncovering the truth.
Something inside me seemed to overflow at his words. Nodding.
I'll pay the investigation fee, please do it,
I quickly replied. The next day, I met Wendy at our usual cafe for lunch and told her about my new job. I didn't mention it was a detective agency, just said it was an investigation office opened by my former boss.
The pay might be less than $3 an hour for some tasks, but I feel like I can utilize my previous experience. I'll give it my best. That's great. I'm rooting for you. I'm thinking of going on a trip tomorrow for a change of scenery. You've been through a lot, Wendy. Enjoy your trip. Thank you.
Wendy responded with an even brighter smile than usual. That was the last day I saw my friend Wendy. A few days later, Georgie called me in to report the investigation results, and I was in disbelief. Tim's mistress was Wendy. Their affair had been going on for over a year. That meant they were already involved when our families had a dinner together. I can't believe it. Wendy was so kind, listening to all my troubles.
Probably just a fling at first. But Wendy's husband must have noticed. Inviting you over might have been a warning to Tim. I don't know what Wendy told you, but her husband is a serious man, not the type to have affairs.
Unbelievable. I was so shocked I couldn't say anything more.
There's plenty of evidence. You could get a significant amount of compensation. Tim's on a business trip now, right?
Yes. After managing to reply, something struck me, and I looked at Georgie. He nodded solemnly, placing a photograph in front of me. It showed Tim and Wendy entering a resort hotel together. They were on a trip. Eventually, Tim and I divorced. I didn't ask for compensation, instead, I cited irreconcilable differences as the reason of the divorce. Leaving the house, I started working, renting a room in the building of the detective agency. Tim and Wendy remarried without any remorse.
Are you really okay with this?
Georgie asked me, but for me, it was all according to plan. However, I never thought I'd witness it with my own eyes. A year later, I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband, Tim.
It's been a while. How's work going? I heard it's like $3 an hour.
Well, keep at it. He spoke in a mocking tone, and I replied.
After a year, you still know nothing. What do you mean? Why don't you ask Wendy?
Tim left with a look of dissatisfaction, but that night, he called me in a frenzy.
Did you know about this?
Know what?
That Wendy is buried in debt.
Wendy had always been a big spender. Though she claimed to be a designer, she didn't really make much.
I knew. I knew you were involved with her for over a year while still married to me.
Oh, and one more thing.
While you were dating her, She miscarried a child from another boyfriend. That's a lie, right? You knew everything and still married her because you loved her, right? Good luck with that. Bye. I hung up and immediately blocked Tim's number. You finally put a period in that chapter of your life. You did well. Georgie, who had overheard the conversation, spoke to me gently. I couldn't hold back my tears. It was the first time I cried since the divorce. Georgie, without saying a word, just held me. After that, Georgie and I became the best partners, both in work and personal life. Apparently, he had been in love with me since we first met. Now, I love him very much too. Tim, on the other hand, ended up filing for bankruptcy because he couldn't pay off Wendy's huge debts. He couldn't stay at his company and now works for a delivery service. This isn't what I signed up for. He spends his days dealing with Wendy, who constantly complains. They betrayed people without a second thought, but will they ever realize the consequences of their actions?
Just a lady who makes meals, right? That's what Emily, who brought a cake while I was in the hospital, said. Daniel saw how I reacted to it and got furious. What are you doing? Apologize to Emily. I swear to God, I didn't do anything to deserve such anger. It's time to tell them the truth. Did you look inside the cake? I am Susan, a 72-year-old homemaker, working at a part-time job making meals. Ever since I was young, influenced by my mom, I loved cooking. After high school, I decided to attend culinary school. I got my chef's license when I graduated, and have been working at a catering company ever since. I've spent years making healthy and tasty meals in company cafeterias, hospitals, and nursing homes. Though I was a full-time employee for many years, now at my age, I work part-time. Still, I'm happy to keep working, doing what I love, cooking. At home, I do all the cooking and chores, but Daniel hardly ever thanks me. He seems to think men shouldn't cook. He can't even find food or drinks in the kitchen without calling me. Hey, Susan, make me some coffee. Right. I told you where the coffee beans, pot, and cups are, didn't I? That's something you should do, Susan. He's so proud of being a former division head at a top company, but he'd be helpless with household chores if anything happened to me. We have 2 kids, our eldest son Lucas and our daughter Cindy. Lucas got married 2 years ago. Lucas, over 30, was at the right age for marriage. I was thrilled when he introduced his fiancée at the perfect time. He wanted to introduce her earlier, but ended up registering their marriage on her birthday due to schedule conflicts. Lucas had always been responsible, and I'm not about to start criticizing his choice of a partner at my age. On the promised day, we finally met her at our house. She was slender, petite, with big eyes, a stark contrast to Lucas. Emily, Lucas's wife, lived in her parents' house until now, working since graduating from junior college. Dad and Mom were strict, never let me live alone. I'm new to housework, but I'll do my best. Her high-pitched voice and fluttering eyelashes as she looked up reminded me of a TV idol. Right after she finished, Daniel's voice, unable to hide his joy, rang out. That earnestness is wonderful. Just be yourself. Her earnest and cute demeanor immediately won Daniel over, even after just one meeting. Her cuteness and earnestness, something I don't have, must have been refreshing for Daniel, but it gives me an uneasy feeling. For a while we talked about Emily's student days, her career, and how she started dating Lucas. But then the mood suddenly changed. Susan, what happened to your hand? I cut it a bit at work, maybe because I was rushed. That looks painful. Speaking of being rushed, what do you mean? I work as a chef part-time. Even though I'm this age, I moved from a full-time to a part-time job, but I still work full hours. When Emily learned I worked as a chef, her expression was indescribable. Part-time as a chef? So you're like people who cook in cafeterias? Yeah, like a cafeteria worker. As I laughed off Emily's comment, Daniel started teasing me. Susan's always cooking, at home and work. It's crazy, right? Just a woman constantly making meals. Daniel probably thought it was funny. Normally, Lucas would chide Daniel, but he was in the bathroom, leaving no one to stop Daniel's prattle. I was so taken aback, I couldn't say a word. Then, to my surprise, it was her who made things worse. Just a person who cooks meals, that's true. I only cook for my beloved Lucas, so it's fine. Her words shocked me, and I was speechless. But she casually continued talking to Lucas when he returned from the bathroom. I was just hearing about it, but Susan's such a hard worker. I'll take a leaf out of her book and do my best, too. Even after Lucas and Emily left in the evening, I couldn't shake off the feeling. The way they belittled the job I've been proud of for decades. The facade they put on in front of Lucas made me slightly uneasy. I thought Lucas and Emily, and we as a couple, were on good terms. We would give them souvenirs from trips, share extra dishes I made. We even celebrated birthdays with nice dinners. But the more I interacted with them, the more irritated I became with Emily. We're connected as friends on social media, and even her posts bother me. In a post about celebrating Daniel's birthday at a restaurant, I was unnaturally cropped out of the pictures. She even posted about the plum wine and cheese I made as if they were her creations. Annual plum winemaking. Looking forward to drinking with my husband. The cheese should be right by now. Made it with love, so it must be delicious. Emily, as a meticulously living homemaker, is gaining followers. Her posts quickly attract many comments. I was staring at the screen, filled with comments praising Emily. Surely no one realizes that she's claiming someone else's work as her own. Isn't it embarrassing to blatantly lie about making something yourself? I thought it over, but decided it didn't really affect me, so I should just maintain a polite distance. However, I soon realized Emily was more dangerous than I thought. I had some concerning results in a health checkup and had to see a specialist at a major hospital. They diagnosed me with cancer, and I had to be hospitalized for tests and treatment. I'm going to be in the hospital for a while for cancer treatment, so please take care of the house. How convenient for you to just decide to be hospitalized and leave the house stuff to me. How can he say such a thing when his wife is ill and going to the hospital? But arguing with Daniel would only cause more trouble, so I held back. Don't say that. I'd be happy if you could visit me sometimes. Who'd bother to visit you? I don't know the first thing about running the house. Right, maybe Lucas would know better than you. I talked to Lucas, and he promised to visit me between work, which relieved me. Since there were still a few days before Lucas's visit, I decided to gather the laundry and other things I needed help with. Then someone opened the door to my hospital room. I heard from Lucas and was worried, so I came to visit. Emily came into the room, holding a white box from a cake shop near the station. Oh, Emily, you're busy too. I feel bad. Thank you for visiting. Lucas is coming next Sunday, but Daniel hasn't come at all. I'm happy you came. Emily smiling, placing the white box on the table. Get well soon. I bought the cake you said you liked, so please eat some. Thank you. Let's eat it together. But Emily, waving her hands lightly, started preparing to leave. I have some errands to run, so please enjoy it, Susan. Oh, there are 2 cakes in the box. Emily left after a brief chat. Despite her past problematic comments, I was touched she visited and brought a gift. Just as Emily left, Daniel entered the room. Daniel, did you come to see me? I'm here on an errand. Emily was just here, right? While speaking, he plopped down on the chair beside me. Emily just visited. Lucas will come in 2 or 3 days, but she left these cakes as gifts beforehand. She said there were 2. Do you want to eat one? Typical Emily, always thoughtful. I'll have the cheesecake. I felt a sense of unease at his words and suddenly realized my suspicions were correct. I snatched the box back and crushed it into the trash bin at my feet. Hey, what are you doing? Emily bought that cake especially for you. You're really the worst, Susan. Are you trying to make trouble now? I immediately questioned Daniel. Did you look inside the cake? No, I haven't. What about it? He clearly didn't understand what I was getting at. Don't talk about Emily like she's the villain. If you think it's sabotage, then eat the one that isn't cheesecake right here in front of me. I'd rather not. I don't like whipped cream. Who mentioned cake with whipped cream? Daniel looked confused, seemingly unaware of his odd statement. I only said there were 2 cakes, yet without seeing them, you chose the cheesecake. Isn't that strange? Well, I just guessed it might be cheesecake. It seemed he still didn't grasp the important point, so I decided to enlighten him. Also, after I threw the cake in the bin, I only asked you to eat the non-cheesecake one. What did you say? I don't remember what I said. Ha ha. Daniel laughed, looking away. It was his habit with lying, clearly trying to cover something up. You said you didn't want to because you dislike whipped cream, as if you knew there was a cheesecake and a whipped cream cake. That's just nitpicking over trivial things. You're the one playing dirty. He turned red with anger, trying to dismiss the situation, but I pressed on. You haven't opened the box or seen its contents, yet you knew what was inside. I figured out that you already knew what was in it. Don't be ridiculous. I didn't see Emily buy the cakes. I absolutely know nothing. You can keep denying it. Just try the non-cheesecake one. If nothing's wrong, I'll apologize and deeply regret accusing Emily. Upon hearing deep apology, Daniel's eyes lit up, thinking he had an opportunity to turn the tables. But this wasn't the end of what I had to say. If there's something wrong with the cake, you'll call Emily right away. I retrieved the cake box from the trash and opened it. Inside, just as Daniel said, were a cheesecake and a fruit cake covered in whipped cream. The fruit cake with a lot of whipped cream was a bit crumbled, but still fine for a taste test. I placed it on a paper plate and handed it to Daniel with a disposable fork. As soon as Daniel took a bite, he grimaced and muttered quietly, "Ugh, salty, terrible." The cake is salty, right? I knew it. Now, as promised, call Emily here right now, and don't say anything strange to her on the phone. True to my word, I had Daniel call Emily to the hospital room. Reluctantly, he dialed her number, but his usual cheerful demeanor nowhere in sight. It's no fun for him with me, seeing through everything, watching over his shoulder. He looked like a henchman reporting a failed mission to a boss character. While I was thinking this, Emily soon entered the room. What's the matter? I rushed over after Daniel's call. Did I forget something? I can be so absent-minded. Sorry. Emily seemed unaware that I had caught on to her plan. I pushed the box with the cake she had bought, now retrieved from the trash, towards her. Yes, you forgot something. This cake was meant for me, right? Of course. I remembered you saying that you loved cakes with whipped cream. You knew about my taste disorder due to cancer treatment, didn't you? Emily looked genuinely surprised, covering her mouth with her hand. Was that the case? I had no idea. She still seemed to be playing dumb, so I decided to corner her. Daniel said this cream is salty. Did you know that too much salt is bad for my treatment? It was then that Emily finally realized her plan had failed, glaring furiously at Daniel. Seeing no point in attacking her accomplice, Emily seemed to be trying to concoct an excuse. That's strange. Salty whipped cream? Oh, I know the bakery must have mixed up sugar and salt. I'll talk to them, don't worry. So you didn't know about the taste disorder, and the cake is salty, that's your excuse? It's not my fault. I didn't know, right? If you keep attacking every mistake, people will hate you. I'm sorry. I don't have the cooking knowledge like you. I'll take my leave now. Emily tried to leave the room, but I quickly locked the door and leaned against it to prevent her from leaving. That's something the victim says, not you. You're going to talk to the bakery? After bringing a homemade cake in a bakery box, what will you tell them? So what then? Do you never make mistakes? Amazing. I respect that. Emily's tone was provocative. Engaging in this fight would only disrupt my plan and be a loss for me. I operated the tablet lying on my bed, opening the search engine. The search history displayed terms like cancer treatment interference food, salt accelerates cancer, taste disorder salt. It's odd. This tablet has search history I don't recall making. Are you sure you're not mistaken, Susan? I haven't used this tablet recently. The history seems to be from around the time you and the others visited during the New Year. I remember. You wanted to watch a live stream of a TV idol using this tablet. I didn't miss Emily's face twitching. You mean to say I searched about cancer progression when I just borrowed it? Stop making false accusations. It's not an accusation. It's a fact. Look, this icon? It's your favorite TV idol. Seems like you forgot to log out. Emily, seeing the icon, looked anxious, her hands trembling. I knew you disliked me, but there are limits to what's acceptable, right? This is like poisoning. It's a crime. Emily, labeled a criminal, became furious. I did nothing wrong. You have always been nasty to me. I just showed you that being able to cook doesn't mean you're superior. Be thankful. I couldn't recall bragging, nor did I talk much about work or cooking with Emily. A few times I brought homemade cheese and side dishes with me. I never intended to boast. If my stories made you uncomfortable, I apologize, but that doesn't justify your actions. Emily lost her composure in the hospital room. You don't get it, old woman. Think you're so great just because you can cook? Getting all proud over tasty dishes? Breathless, Emily was joined by Daniel, who suddenly interjected. He had been like a ghost in the corner until now. Exactly. Women should be charming, but you, always working, never showed any desire to protect the home. Just because you have cooking qualifications doesn't mean you can be arrogant. Daniel, you're still here. You're really siding with Emily. I knew you were here to ensure I ate the salt-laden cake. So what if I am? It's none of your business. I might soon be living with Emily and Lucas. You can manage on your own, so you should just quietly live somewhere else. So, in my absence, Daniel, Emily, and Lucas had arranged to live together. This was news to me, and Daniel's tone made it clear he wanted me out of the house fast. Daniel, have you lost your mind? Living together must be Emily's idea, right? Yes, unlike you. She's kind and approachable. She felt sorry for me being alone at home, because you don't take care of things properly. That's why I always insisted Daniel learn to do things around the house himself. Is this salted cake a scheme for my medical insurance or something? How did you know? I noticed you reading insurance policies and calling the insurance company. They called me and told me everything. That's how I found out. The thought that Daniel and Emily planned to extend my treatment for insurance money, intending to live together with Emily and Lucas, was horrifying. I was lucky to discover their plan through the search history and the call from the insurance company. What if I hadn't noticed? I shudder to think. Lucas, unaware of Daniel and Emily's scheme, was appalled at their malice towards me and my treatment, and decided to divorce Emily. She complained a lot about not wanting to divorce. But Lucas was firm in his decision, understanding that staying with her could lead to unpredictable outcomes. He couldn't forgive her casual attitude towards her actions and did not rescind the divorce. After successful cancer treatment, I was discharged from the hospital. I couldn't overexert myself, but I managed to return to my part-time culinary job. Being in a dispatch company, my workplace varies, and my first assignment post-recovery was at a regional hospital. While preparing today's breakfast, I noticed many comments about the special menu. Is this name familiar to you? The food tag had a familiar name, though the surname was different. Soon, I discovered Emily was hospitalized there. Following the divorce, her mental balance had been disturbed, leading to her hospitalization. She's become notorious among the staff for complaining about meals and daily life. When delivering meals, I encountered Emily arguing loudly with a staff member. So it's true. You're just a lady who makes meals. This old lady got me hospitalized. Why not admit her instead? Still talking nonsense, Emily? I have work to do and can't spare time for you. Among the staff, Emily was now widely disliked and treated as a troublesome patient. Oblivious to how her actions had made her so unpopular. She hasn't changed, always finding excuses and unable to face reality. With the divorce, Daniel and Emily's plan to live together fell through. Despite the initial plan to live with Lucas and the divorced Emily, it would have been awkward for Daniel to stay as before. He seemed uncomfortable. Lately, my eldest daughter, Cindy, now with more free time, occasionally visits, which makes me happy. The most significant change, however, is Daniel starting to learn household chores. With Cindy's help, he's caught between us, learning the ways of housekeeping. It's essential for him to be self-sufficient, given the uncertainty of the future. Educating my husband at this age is more challenging than expected, but it's necessary for both our futures. When making a pot of foo, you cut the ingredients, brown the meat, sauté the onions until translucent, add wine and canned tomatoes, simmer, and season with salt and pepper. I never knew making a pot of foo took so much effort. I was wrong to say you took shortcuts. That's okay, you didn't know, but you can learn now. Daniel is starting to appreciate how easy he had it, and how challenging household chores are. He's even begun to express gratitude. I hope to rebuild a good relationship with him and return to a life that feels truly ours.
It's been 5 days since our child was born. My husband appeared without any notice and shoved divorce papers in my face.
If you get too cocky just because you had a kid, I'll divorce you right away. You'd be in trouble if we divorced, right? There's no way you can raise a kid alone, huh?
Enraged, I snatched the divorce papers from him.
Huh? It's pointless to try and tear it up. You'll just be my slave anyway.
Ignoring my husband's sneering laugh, I signed the divorce papers and said, "Fine, let's get divorced."
Huh?
My name is Stella. I'm 32 years old. I met my older husband, Leonardo, at work, and we've been married for 4 years.
I'll work hard and earn money, so I want Stella to support me. When we have kids, I want Stella to stay at home.
Leonardo's parents both worked, so he felt lonely during his childhood. That's why he strongly hoped that I would become a stay-at-home mom so our child wouldn't feel the same way. I agreed with Leonardo's opinion and became a stay-at-home mom when we got married. Leonardo, who was over 30 when we got married, wanted to have children right away. I wanted time for just the two of us, but I also wanted children. I felt a little lonely, but I convinced myself to save our time as a couple for our old age. But even after 1 year, even after 2 years, no baby came to us. As I turned 30, I started to feel anxious. Leonardo became visibly irritated and started talking as if it was my fault.
Why can't you have a baby even though you're a stay-at-home mom? There are so many working women who get pregnant. You're in a privileged environment and still can't get pregnant. Who do you think you are?
It's not like I don't want to get pregnant, but he talks as if it's all my fault. Having a job or not has nothing to do with pregnancy. Leonardo talks as if it's all my fault. It seemed like he was venting his frustration by ordering me around.
You don't have any kids, and you're just lazing around at home, so you can at least do this. Don't be spoiled.
The household chores Leonardo demanded became more and more advanced. It felt like I was being treated like a maid. However, living far from my hometown, I didn't have any friends nearby. I barely went out, only to buy groceries. I wasn't working, so I hardly had any money to spend freely. I was living a suffocating life. It wasn't just Leonardo who cornered me. 2 years into our marriage, with no pregnancy announcement, his parents started to suspect something and contacted us. His parents asked, "Where's our grandchild?" My husband said, It's your fault we don't have a baby. I had no one to talk to and had to endure the pressure alone. My life became darker and darker, but the endless days seemed to come to an end. Finally, I got pregnant. A clear positive line appears on the pregnancy test. Tears of joy well up in my eyes. At last, I finally become pregnant. I try to contain my excitement and take a picture of the pregnancy test to send to Leonardo. Once he knows I'm pregnant, he should go back to being his old self. I send the photo with that hope, but there's no response from Leonardo. When he comes home late at night, he hands me his bag and jacket like always. Nothing seems different. Wait, did he not see the photo? Without saying a word, Leonardo sits on the sofa and starts watching TV. At dinner, he's still silent, so I decide to bring up the topic myself. Leonardo, I sent you a photo. Did you see it? I'm pregnant. Finally, a baby is coming to us. Holding back the tears that threaten to spill, I smile at Leonardo, but his gaze remains fixed on the TV. Finally, without changing his expression, Leonardo says, "Seems like it." Is that all? Why isn't he happy? Why doesn't he look pleased? I can't understand it at all. An indescribable feeling washes over me. Hey, this is our baby. Aren't you happy? You always said you wanted a child. You wished for it to happen soon, right? I seek agreement from Leonardo as if to dispel my anxiety. He should be happy, delighted, feeling the same as me. That's what I wanted to believe. But the words that came back from Leonardo easily betrayed my expectations.
Don't get all high and mighty just because you got pregnant, all right? Do you even realize how long you kept me waiting? Don't think I'll be kind just because you're pregnant. You're not working. I expect you to keep doing the housework, as you have been.
I never thought of slacking off on housework or expecting kindness. All I want is a single "I'm happy" from Leonardo. My tears of joy from just a moment ago have turned into tears of sadness. Without paying any attention to me, Leonardo heads to the bedroom without saying a word. Why couldn't he be happy for me? He said he wanted a child so badly. At the obstetrician's office, I found out I was pregnant with twins, but Leonardo doesn't show any sign of happiness. Maybe it doesn't feel real yet since my belly isn't getting big. I'm sure he'll gradually realize it as my belly grows. That's what I decided to believe. A few weeks pass and morning sickness starts, along with constant drowsiness. Even in this state, Leonardo doesn't show concern for my health or help with housework. During a checkup, I'm faced with a shocking truth.
You're at risk for a miscarriage. Please try to rest as much as possible.
Hearing the word miscarriage makes everything go dark. But knowing there's still a chance for the babies, I take a deep breath. The doctor's instruction is bed rest at home. I need Leonardo's help. I contact him right away, but just like when I told him about the pregnancy, there's no response. I tell Leonardo about the checkup when he gets home, but his attitude doesn't change. After struggling for a few days, I decide to go back to my parents' house early. That night, Leonardo throws these words at me.
Don't laze around too much at your parents and gain weight, okay? And remember, you're taking care of the house when you get back. Be careful not to slack off too much.
On the day I go back home, even though we won't see each other for a while, Leonardo leaves the house in the morning. With my parents' help, I get through my time at home, and after several checkups, I'm told there's no more concern. That's the only saving grace. When I contact Leonardo to tell him about the checkup, he picks up the phone and tells me in an annoyed voice,
"Oh, that's good. Well, bye."
Just before he hangs up, I hear a woman's voice on the other end of the phone.
"Leonardo, who are you talking to?"
It didn't sound like a misunderstanding. The person on the other end was clearly calling Leonardo's name. I had a feeling that Leonardo didn't love me anymore. I didn't want to admit it, but after hearing that woman's voice, I couldn't deny it any longer. Now, Leonardo's cold attitude makes sense. As I rubbed my growing belly, I made a decision. I'll divorce him and raise these twins by myself. Having been cooped up at home for about 2 months, I decided to go for a walk. It was a warm, sunny day, and the fresh green leaves were dazzling. Just then, I was suddenly called from behind. It was my childhood friend, Jameson, who had called out to me. We hadn't seen each other in years, and he happily invited me for tea. After reminiscing about old times, we shared updates on our lives. Jameson had become a lawyer and had just opened a small office. Hearing his profession, I had an idea.
Speaking of which, in cases of infidelity, you can claim compensation, right?
I accidentally let that slip, and Jameson's expression turned serious.
"What's wrong? If you have any concerns, I'll listen."
Before I knew it, I was revealing my inner thoughts, which I couldn't tell anyone. The struggle to get pregnant, my husband's indifference, and even him enjoying time with his mistress. As I talked, I realized I was tearing up.
It must have been tough.
At Jameson's words, the tension inside me snapped. Even though I'm not young anymore, I broke down crying without caring about others' eyes.
"Calm down. It's okay. I'll help you."
Jameson desperately comforted me.
"First, let's gather evidence. You can't fight without proof of infidelity." "Evidence?" "Anything. Just gather physical evidence."
"But can I do it?"
"Should I introduce you to a private detective agency I'm acquainted with? They're experienced in gathering evidence for divorce cases, so it'll be fine."
"Thank you. That would be helpful." After that, I followed Jameson's advice and hired a private detective to gather evidence of Leonardo's infidelity. According to the detective agency, Leonardo had been inviting his mistress to our home and practically living with her while I was away visiting my parents. The mistress was a third-year newcomer at the same company Leonardo and I worked at. Everyone at the company knew that Leonardo was married, as I used to work there too. It seemed that the mistress was having a relationship with him, knowing he was married, and their affair had been going on for 2 years. It was around the time Leonardo became frustrated that we couldn't have a child. He blamed me for not being able to have a child, treated me like a maid, and was indifferent even after I became pregnant. I had many worries because it was my first time, but he was cheating with another woman outside. Learning the truth, I trembled with anger. So this was why he didn't rejoice when I became pregnant. While I was suffering and in pain, he was enjoying himself. Just divorcing him wouldn't be enough. I will definitely make him pay. Determined, I had several meetings with Jameson, the lawyer, and devised a plan. Jameson was very supportive and constantly concerned about my condition. And right on my due date, I gave birth to healthy twins. Leonardo suddenly appeared on the 5th day after the birth when the pain from my wound had subsided.
"Hey, long time no see. You got to stay in the hospital for 9 days, huh? What a luxury. It's not like you gave birth by yourself. You were slow to get pregnant. Slacked off on housework when you went home. and then had a C-section? You're a failure as a woman.
To say such words to his wife, especially a wife who just gave birth? And he didn't even try to look at the children's faces. I didn't want to think that this man was the father of the twins. Barely containing my anger, Leonardo handed me a piece of paper. His signature was already on the divorce papers.
Don't get cocky just because you had kids, or it's instant divorce. You'd be in trouble if we got divorced, right? If you slack off on housework because you have kids, I won't forgive you.
My husband waved the divorce papers in front of me. My anger reached its peak, and I forcibly snatched the divorce papers from him.
Tearing it up is useless, you know. I can just get another one from the city office.
Ignoring Leonardo's sneering, I took a pen out of my bag.
Fine, let's get a divorce. I've been wanting to do it too. Huh?
I won't let him lay a finger on the children. I want him to disappear from this place as soon as possible. With those thoughts, I signed the divorce papers. Leonardo, sneering at me, reached out to grab the papers.
Do you even know what you're saying? What will you do with these kids if you divorce me? You can't raise them alone. Stop being stubborn. You should just be my slave for the rest of your life.
I've already told my parents that we're getting a divorce. From now on, I'll live with them. I don't need a man who cheats on me.
How long do you think that bravado will last? You can't make it without me. You'll regret it when it's too late.
That's when Jameson's voice was heard.
Excuse me, my name is Mr. Wood, and I'm Stella's lawyer. If you don't let go now, I'll call someone.
Surprised by the sudden appearance of the lawyer, Leonardo immediately let go of the papers.
Who are you? What do you mean, lawyer?
As if to hold Jameson back, my husband stepped forward and raised his voice. But Jameson was unfazed. He must have been through many similar situations before. Jameson calmly continued the conversation.
We already have evidence of your infidelity. If you don't agree to the divorce, we'll proceed with divorce mediation or a lawsuit. If you don't agree to pay compensation or negotiate, we'll also go to court. Wait a minute. I didn't agree to a divorce.
What is he talking about now, after bringing up the divorce himself? I can't stand this ridiculousness. While Jameson was persuading Leonardo, I handed the signed divorce papers to Jameson.
Mr. Wood, please take care of this.
Leonardo tried to take it back, but Jameson quickly put the papers in his bag.
I'll take care of it.
Jameson's face exuded an undeniable aura. Realizing that he couldn't defy the lawyer, Leonardo turned to me.
Hey, you're joking, right? We're not really getting a divorce, are we? You know you can't make a living without me, right? They're twins. Twins! It'll cost a lot of money. You'll be in trouble without me, right?
I gave Leonardo a cold stare. Feeling the intensity of my gaze, Leonardo was taken aback for a moment.
I can't believe you're the one who brought up divorce. And now you're saying this? We're still getting divorced, and I'm taking the alimony. You never planned on doing housework or childcare, right? I know that much. What do you mean, become a slave? Don't make a fool out of women.
I shouted angrily, leaving Leonardo stunned. I pressed on against him.
From now on, if you have anything to say, go through Mr. Wood. There's no point coming here. I'll ask everyone to keep you out. We have nothing more to discuss. So leave.
Hearing this, Leonardo's face turned red, and he raised his fist.
What? You?
But with Jameson's cough, he came to his senses and lowered his powerless fist.
That's how it is. So please leave.
Jameson's words seemed to make Leonardo give up, and he left the room with slumped shoulders. After that, I asked my parents to submit the divorce papers to the city office. The papers were accepted without issue, and I was finally, officially divorced. Since that day, I had to change my cell phone because of nonstop calls and messages from Leonardo. Jameson, as a professional, did an excellent job handling the rest. I received proper alimony from Leonardo and his affair partner, so I wouldn't have trouble making ends meet for a while. A few months later, they both left their company. Their affair was exposed at work, and the woman resigned voluntarily. Leonardo was transferred to a rural area, but rumors followed him there, and he had no place to stay. After enduring reduced salary and people's stares, he continued to miss work without notice and was eventually fired for disciplinary reasons. On the other hand, I returned to my parents' house and struggled with childcare every day. It's tough with everything being new, but I'm managing thanks to my parents and Jameson. Actually, Jameson had apparently harbored feelings for me since long ago. He confessed, saying, "I don't mind if you have a child or a divorce history. Please, be with me." He told me to answer when I was ready, but my feelings were already set. After that, I married Jameson. Now he treats the twins as his own children. Neither my parents nor I can thank Jameson enough for his wholehearted support of our family. I can't express my gratitude enough. From now on, I want to build a happy home with Jameson, starting anew.
William, you consider me family, right? You said I was the only one you could rely on and even handed me the bills, remember? Ah, that. Just acting. I lied because I wanted you to pay. Figured you'd do anything if I called you family. William, my stepson, smirks as he says this to me, who came to visit him in the hospital. Ignoring my shock, Emily, his wife, laughs at me as if I'm a fool. So, you paid for the surgery and now you think you're some kind of hero? Don't flatter yourself. You really think that makes you family? It's clear. They don't consider me family. That alone is enough to make me feel down. But William throws more heartless words at me. You're not needed. You can go home now. I paid for the surgery, got no thanks, and now I learned that calling me family was just a trick to get me to pay. Emily's words, William's dismissal, it's all enough to turn my sadness into anger. I don't need to be family with people like this. Unaware of my growing anger, William waves me away. Don't ever show your face again. You're a stranger to us. We have no plans to interact with you ever again. Fine by me. I'll gladly cut ties with you. Great, that's what I want. Enjoy your lonely life then. I feel foolish for ever wanting to be family with these people. I regret being deceived and paying for the surgery, but I decide to consider it severance pay. If being family means being with people like you, I'm better off alone. Goodbye. I say this and leave the hospital room. My name is Laura. I married Owen, a single father, in my late 30s. I used to live a life without much social interaction, but Owen taught me the joy of connecting with people. Therefore, when Owen asked me to marry him, I thought it would be okay if it was with this person. I thought that, even though we weren't related by blood, I could be a real family with William, Owen's son. But it wasn't that easy. Living together, I quickly learned how hard it is to close the gap with someone who won't open up. I had never raised a child. And William was a sensitive teenager when I moved in. I didn't know how to connect with him, and our relationship didn't improve. His answers to my questions were always short. Ah, yeah, whatever. Sometimes he'd even say, "Don't worry about it," curtly dismissing me. At that time, my priority was William, and I was desperate to deepen our relationship. I was trying myself down, rushing things. The person who eased my mind was none other than Owen. I sometimes wonder if I'm being a good father too. Really. One evening after dinner, William quickly retreated to his room. When I expressed my concerns, Owen responded like this. Unable to hide my surprise, Owen gave a light laugh. To be honest, ever since William was born, I've never felt like a perfect father. But I've never been good at socializing, so even before worrying about being a mother, I don't know if I'm communicating well. Laura, just be yourself. There's no point in rushing. If you force it, it's not a real family. My husband is right. Forcing a relationship isn't the same as building real trust. So, let's take our time becoming a family. William is going through adolescence. It's a tough time. He'll get frustrated, but someday he'll understand. Yes, you're right. Thank you. My husband's words melt away the pressure that had been weighing on my heart. From that day on, I stopped trying to force a closer relationship with William. I noticed he was slightly more talkative when Owen was around, so I chose those moments to engage him. I think it led to more meaningful responses, but we never really got close. Eventually, William went off to college and never returned home. He would occasionally visit Owen, but never contacted me. He would tell Owen when he was coming, so I would prepare a feast and look forward to his return. But that joy didn't last long. Once William became financially independent, he began to scorn me, acting all high and mighty while living off Dad's money. The first time I heard those words, I thought I must have misheard. I never thought William would say something like that. He had never been honest with me, but sadly, I hadn't misheard. Every time he came home, he belittled me when Owen wasn't around. This continued even after he got married. His wife Emily even joined in. Guess you could only get a guy with kids, huh? How sad for someone so unattractive. Like William, Emily looked down on me when Owen wasn't around. In Owen's presence, she would only talk to him and William, treating me as if I didn't exist. I was already struggling with my relationship with my stepson, and now my daughter-in-law was treating me horribly. I was deeply depressed. But I couldn't talk to Owen about it. He was nearing 70 and battling lung cancer. I didn't want to add to his worries. Despite his fight, Owen passed away at 72. The words William directed at me in my deep sorrow were easy to despair over. Now that Dad's gone, you and I are strangers. He told me this matter-of-factly right after Owen's funeral, when the exhaustion of the past few days hit me all at once. Emily, standing next to him, said nothing but gave me a cold look. "I can't believe," I managed to say, but received no reply from either of them. It's been a year since. I've had no contact with William and Emily. Having learned the warmth of being with people, I was stuck in a dark place, unable to move on from the loss of my husband and the shocking words from my stepson. Then one day, I looked at my phone after leaving it unattended for a few hours and saw a flood of missed calls. The caller was William. Seeing dozens of missed calls from my son, who hadn't contacted me in a year, I panicked and called him back. "Hello, Mom. I've been diagnosed with lung cancer and need surgery." "What? Hearing the same diagnosis as Owen, I was stunned. William's voice was weak, stirring my anxiety. When I found out I had cancer, I didn't know what to do, and then I thought of you, Mom. This coming from William, who had always despised me, was unexpected. He must have felt vulnerable. I quickly thought of the most reassuring thing to say. Don't worry, medical treatments are advancing. And you're only 35, you're young and strong. Trust your doctors and focus on getting better. Ah, okay, thank you, Mom. I felt a guilty sense of happiness that my son, who had always rejected me, was now relying on me in his time of need. And for the first time, William said, "Thank you," warming my heart. Emily is there for you, but if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. I'll visit you in the hospital. Let me know your room number. A few days later, I headed to the hospital room William had told me about. It was a private room, spacious and likely expensive. How are you feeling? Thanks for coming, Mom. I was in pain right after the surgery, but I'm okay now. Though he looked tired, William smiled at me. After a brief chat about his condition, the conversation shifted to the room. I can't sleep well around strangers, so I chose a private room, but the cheaper ones were all taken. So you ended up in this big room, but at least you can rest. Yeah, but it's more expensive than I thought. Saying this, William handed me the bill. It listed surgery and hospitalization costs, along with the room charge, totaling over $10,000. William and Emily, who's a housewife, don't have much savings. Already physically drained, William looked emotionally strained as well, tearfully asking for my help. Mom, I'm sorry for calling you a stranger before, but now you're the only one I can ask. Can you pay this bill for me? You're the only family I have left. I understand. I'll take care of the bill on my way out, so stop worrying and focus on resting. I had been wondering how I could help ever since I got the call, so I immediately agreed to William's shaky request. Really? Of course, you're my precious son, and you've been through a lot. Let me do this for you. I said this and paid the bill at the reception desk before heading home. I visited William again the next day, but my hope for another heartfelt conversation was quickly shattered. Strangers are not allowed in here. As I entered the room, Emily, who had arrived before me, yelled this at me. From yesterday's interaction, I thought William considered me family. Surely, William will stand up for me. That's what I thought. But William, lying in bed, showed no sign of intervening. Growing impatient, I couldn't help but ask William, "William, you consider me family, don't you? You said I was the only one you could ask for help and even gave me the bill, right?" "Ah, that, just an act. I lied because I wanted you to pay. I thought if I called you family, you'd do anything for me." William twisted his mouth into a distasteful grin as he answered, "So, you think you're a lifesaver just because you paid for the surgery? Don't flatter yourself. That doesn't make you family." I realized I was still not considered family. That alone was enough to make me feel down. But William threw more heartless words at me. "You're not needed. You can go home now." Not receiving any thanks for covering the surgery costs, being told that calling me family was just a trick to get me to pay, and now hearing "you're not needed" from my son, all of this turned my sadness into anger. I don't need to be family with people like this. Unaware of my anger, William waved me away. You don't have to show your face ever again. You're a stranger to me. I have no plans to interact with you for the rest of my life. Fine. If that's how you feel, I'll gladly cut ties with you. Great, that's what I want. Enjoy your lonely life then. I felt indifferent about my desperate attempts to become family with these people. I regretted being fooled and paying for the surgery, but I decided to consider it severance money. If being family with people like you is my alternative, I'd rather be alone. Goodbye. I left the hospital room. Despite cutting ties with my son and his wife, my heart felt lighter and more refreshed than it had in years. Then, a few days later, William called again. Come to the hospital now. Even over the phone, I could tell William was extremely irritated. You're the one who said never to show my face again, remember? Shut up. This is all your fault. They said I could finally be discharged, but then they gave me another bill. Why didn't you pay the full amount? Apparently, William had no money and couldn't pay the bill. He thought he didn't have to pay anything because I had covered all the costs. I paid everything that was on the bill you gave me. I don't see why you're complaining. Then why do I have to be billed again? An angry William continued to complain loudly. It seems he chose the expensive private room thinking I would cover the costs. You said you'd pay for me once. Keep your promise. He insisted he shouldn't have to pay. I decided to give him a reality check. I agreed to pay for the bill you gave me. I never said I'd cover any future bills. Huh? He seemed not to understand, his voice tinged with anger. I explained so even William could understand. Hospitals usually bill at the end of the month. You were hospitalized at the end of the month, so the bill you gave me was for last month. The new bill is for this month. I never heard that. They probably explained it when they gave you last month's bill. You likely ignored it, thinking it didn't concern you. What? Did you know the bill wasn't the full amount? Why didn't you tell me? I was planning to pay for your discharge fees too, but I can't see myself paying for someone who isn't even family. Then come to the hospital right now and settle the bill. If you do, I'll consider you family. At William's words, I let out a deep sigh. How can someone asking for a favor act so arrogant? I was beyond angry. I was dumbfounded. I already told you, I'd rather be alone than be family with someone like you. Even after my firm refusal, William persisted. Are you sure? If you're not family with me, you'll be truly alone. No one will want to deal with an old person like you, and you can't even support yourself. What are you talking about? I've been working all along. Don't lie. You've been at home all the time. You've always relied on Dad's money, and you're still living off his inheritance. I was at home because I work from home. I'm a writer, you know. What? For a moment, William was speechless, but he quickly yelled, That's a lie. I've never seen you work. That's because I always stopped working to spend time with you, to become a family, but it was all in vain. So, you're really a writer? But you're probably not a successful one. I've never heard of any writer with your name. I publish under a pen name. Success is subjective, but I've certainly earned more than Owen. What? Faced with the reality, William was at a loss for words. After a long silence, I said, Are we done here? And was about to hang up. Then I heard William say, Wait! I was wrong. I always thought you married Dad for his money. I didn't know you were earning your own. That's good, The misunderstanding is cleared up. Goodbye. Wait! You're my lifesaver and my family. You can even live with me, so please help me. Who was it that called me a stranger and kicked me out of the hospital room? That was... I couldn't make out what William was mumbling, but I didn't need to hear it. You're the one who said never show your face again, and I have no plans to interact with you for the rest of my life, right? I'm fine on my own, so you should rely on someone else who's unrelated to you. With that, I hung up. I ignored all subsequent calls from William and blocked his number. Afterward, William withdrew almost all of his savings to pay the remaining bills. He needed ongoing chemotherapy to prevent cancer recurrence, and it seemed his finances were getting worse. Emily lost her patience with him when the money ran out and apparently had an affair. Now he is in debt due to a divorce settlement. William is too busy with work and hospital visits to take care of himself, so in exchange for not demanding compensation, Emily takes care of household chores. Both are constantly irritated in a life without love or money, and it seems people are gradually disappearing from their lives. It's a fitting outcome for two people who easily called someone they considered family a stranger. As for me, I had been writing dark works since my husband passed away. But this experience inspired me to write a powerful new piece that's been well received by both editors and readers. I've regained the sense of purpose that I lost when my husband died. I plan to continue producing works that meet my readers' expectations.